Hello everyone, thanks for coming to my presentation. My name is Xinran. I'm a first-year PhD student in the School of Construction Management Technology at Purdue University. Today I'm going to talk about the impact of BIM on project performance. My presentation is broken down into 4 parts, and during the next 15 minutes, I'll talk about the research background, methods, results, and our conclusions. Let's start by talking about building information modeling, which is often known as BIM. Well, BIM is a really important process in the AEC industry. So what is it? Well, BIM is a method that helps us to create and manage all kinds of information about a project from the start to the end. Just imagine it like a 3D model of an actual building. And it's not just about how the building looks. It also includes things like schedules, costs, and even details about the maintenance. All of this information helps everyone working on the project better understand it, so that they can make better decisions and improve the project's performance. And based on previous studies, we found that many people would agree that BIM can positively impact project performance. It can specifically help us with a better schedule control and improve the project productivity and enhance the quality of design. But it's not just all about the good stuff. We're finding that BIM use comes with its own challenges. For example, we found owner support might be lacking, and sometimes the project stakeholders might be struggling with the legal issues and the lack of proper standards, not to mention the high costs related to the BIM technologies. Well, these challenges can have some negative impacts on the project performance, and we have found an increase in the cost and legal risks. So it really made us wonder whether using BIM can be really beneficial to the project performance. When we talk about the impacts of BIM, researchers have been looking at project performance by various indicators, from broad ones like the cost and quality to specific ones like the request for information, change orders, or the time savings. But we found only a few studies have checked whether using BIM really made a difference in project performance. And based on previous quantitative studies, we have found that BIM impacted on project performance across different stakeholders. And the stakeholders can be like the designers, owners, and contractors. Also, the previous studies have considered factors like the age and the size of companies, individual characteristics, and sometimes they also talk about the types and locations of projects. Even though we found some relationships between BIM's impact on project performance and these individual or company or project characteristics, there is no quantitative study comparing BIM's impact on project performance between BIM's projects and non-BIM projects. It's specifically in these 3 aspects, which are business types, the years of working experience, and the countries where the BIM projects are located. So in our study, we have compared BIM's impact on project performance between BIM projects and non-BIM projects across these 3 aspects. Based on the literature review, we have found 12 indicators, and it is really important to understand how these indicators work. So we just split them into 2 groups based on the following rules. For the first group, we think the ratio greater than 1 indicates better project performance. And for the second group, we think the ratio less than 1 means that BIM is having a positive impact. Now let's look at some examples. For the first group, let's look at the number of pre-construction RFIs. If the ratio of the pre-construction RFI is greater than 1, it just means that we are finding more RFIs before the construction stage, And this is a really good thing because it means that we can deal with the issues without delaying the project schedule. What about the second group? Let's look at the total number of the change orders. And if this ratio is greater than 1, it just means that BIM projects are seeing more change orders than non-BIM projects. And this is a negative impact because previous studies have proved that change orders can often lead to higher contract prices. So based on these indicators, we designed a questionnaire to collect this data. Our responses primarily came from the AC industry professionals, and we found most of them had a BIM working experience between 5 and 20 years. BIM projects that we studied were primarily located in the United States. Well, let's look at the results of our data. For the first group of indicators, BIM projects outperform their non-BIM projects. Why is that? Well, they have found more detected pre-construction design errors, more detected pre-construction RFIs. RFI means request for information, and more repeat customers. However, things was a little bit different for the second group of indicators. The use of BIM seemed to have resulted in a decline in the overall project performance, and it was specifically with the total number of in-construction RFIs. In addition, our data also found a significant skewness in these 12 indicators. While skewness can be caused by several factors, such as the sample size, extreme values, or the nature of data. In our case, the skewness might result from the business types, BIM experience, or the countries. So let's look at how these factors influence the BIM's impact on project performance. For the first group of indicators, in terms of business types, software vendors and architects have found fewer design errors and fewer requests for information before the construction stage. Also, the software vendors got fewer customers coming back for their BIM projects, and architects didn't get any more. However, we found that using BIM really helped contractors find almost 7 times more design errors and requests for information before the construction stage, and brought way more repeat customers to them. So we can see that BIM had really a different impact on project performance across different types of business. What about the results in terms of working experience and countries? For those who had less than 2 years and 5 to 13 years of working experience, BIM had helped them to find more detected pre-construction design errors and more detected pre-construction RFIs. Also, BIM really helped them to get more repeat customers. However, for the other participants, BIM led to a decrease in detected design errors before the construction stage. And in terms of the countries, it was a little bit different. And we found that in the countries including the United States, BIM had really helped them to find more design errors and more requests for information before the construction stage. But for those who did BIM projects only in one country, and these countries are not the United States, using BIM has led to less detected errors and requests for information. Now let's move on to the second group of indicators. First of all, in terms of business types, we found that software vendors and architects benefited from BIM projects, particularly with the reduction in near misses and the reduction in the cost of punch list items. However, contractors really experienced a lot of negative effects from the BIM projects, particularly with the total cost of rework and the total cost of in-construction RFIs, and the total number of near misses. Well, speaking of the project areas, we found that respondents who were involved in the BIM projects in the United States or the multiple countries were facing more challenges compared to non-BIM projects, particularly with the increase in construction RFIs. And for those who use BIM only in one country and it is not the United States, BIM using was found to improve project performance, especially with the decrease in construction RFIs. Now, what about the results across different working experience? We found that BIM had improved a few aspects of project performance for those who had less than 1 year and 2 to 5 years and more than 20 years of working experience. Well, in conclusion, our study have found that BIM can bring both positive and negative impacts on project performance. First of all, in terms of the positive impacts, we have found that BIM is particularly useful in the detection of early design errors and pre-construction RFIs. In addition, BIM is really beneficial to bring more repeat customers to the project stakeholders. For some project stakeholders, BIM is beneficial to contractors before the construction stage and beneficial to the software vendors and architects after the construction stage. On the other hand, BIM also led to some negative impacts on project performance, such as bringing more in construction RFIs and increasing the cost of change orders and punch list items. In addition, we found that BIM experience did not guarantee better project performance. Also, for the project stakeholders, contractors were found to face the difficulties with in-construction RFIs and the increasing costs during the construction. And for the software vendors and architects, they were suffering from detecting early errors. So for the future research, it is pretty critical to validate our findings with more case studies, and important to understand why BIM has led to higher costs in some certain areas. And we need to find the strategies to improve BIM project performance based on the negative impacts that we have found. Here are the references that we use in our studies. And thank you very much for your attention. We will be very happy to take any questions you may have, and feel free to contact us.